This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. It's Thursday, October 3rd, 2024. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
The president and vice president put their eyes on devastation in the Southeast.
The United States, the nation, has your back.
I'm Clayton Neville.
Worries the government may not have enough money to handle the next natural disaster. Lisa Dwyer has that.
Federal prosecutors are again trying to convince a federal judge Donald Trump is not entitled to immunity from prosecution. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
J.D. Vance and Tim Walz hit the campaign trail as surrogates claim victory for their candidates. I'm John Stolness.
On Wall Street, stocks were higher yesterday, even though Mideast tensions are hanging over investors. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
A San Diego doctor has pleaded guilty in Los Angeles federal court in connection with the overdose death of Friends star Matthew Perry last year. I'm Archie Zaraletta with the latest.
All ahead on America in the Morning. President Biden and Vice President Harris are pledging federal help to storm-ravaged parts of the Southeast after visiting some of the areas hardest hit by Hurricane Helene. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
More than 175 people have now been reported dead in the Southeast after Hurricane Helene made landfall as a Category 4, and as a tropical storm, it dumped torrential rain, causing historic flooding.
The damage is still being assessed, but many people are still unaccounted for. So I'm here to say the United States, the nation, has your back.
President Biden visited storm-torn areas in the Carolinas and had an aerial view over Asheville, which was hit particularly hard with floods.
It's going to cost billions of dollars to deal with this storm and all the communities affected.
He called on lawmakers to step up.
And Congress has an obligation to ensure the states have the resources they need.
The president met with local officials and said that despite being just over a month away from the presidential election, it's not a time for politics right now.
There are no Democrats or Republicans, only Americans. And our job is to help as many people as we can, as quickly as we can, and as thoroughly as we can.
The president's directing up to 1,000 active duty troops to support the North Carolina National Guard in its Helene response. Their job to help speed up delivery of supplies like food, water, even medicine in communities most isolated. Meanwhile, in Georgia, Vice President Kamala Harris met with local authorities there and toured storm-ravaged areas.
And particularly devastating in terms of the loss of life that this community has experienced, the loss of normalcy, and the loss of critical resources. And so I'm here today to thank all of those who are working to get folks the support and the relief that they so desperately need and so rightly deserve.
The vice president was in Augusta.
There are FEMA personnel who are going door to door to interact personally with folks, especially those who do not have electricity, but also that aid, if you have electricity, can be applied for online, and I encourage people to do that.
President Biden expected to visit impacted communities in Georgia and in Florida today. I'm Clayton Neville.
The size and scope of the damage in 6 states has the government worried that it may not have enough funding to last through the hurricane season. That comes amid a warning from Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. Lisa Dwyer reports.
Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas says the agency tasked with helping communities recover from Hurricane Helene and other natural disasters does not have enough money to make it through the hurricane season. Mayorkas says that the Federal Emergency Management Agency can meet immediate needs, but would need Congress to provide additional funds. Mayorkas was not specific on how much additional money the agency may need, but his remarks underscore concerns voiced by President Joe Biden and some lawmakers earlier this week that Congress may need to pass a supplemental spending bill this fall to help states with recovery efforts. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Special Counsel Jack Smith has outlined new details of former President Donald Trump and his allies' efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 election, unsealing new evidence aimed at defending Smith's prosecution of Trump following the Supreme Court's July immunity ruling. More on the story from Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani.
Federal prosecutors are again trying to convince a federal judge Donald Trump is not entitled to immunity from prosecution over his failed bid to stay in power after the 2020 election. In a court filing, they say Trump resorted to crimes after losing the race to Joe Biden. The filing by special counsel Jack Smith's team comes after a Supreme Court opinion that gave broad immunity to former presidents for official acts taken while in office. Smith's prosecutors hope to convince federal judge Tanya Chutkin that the charges against Trump are private, not official, and they should remain part of the indictment against him going forward. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Both Vance and Walz reflect on their debate performance when America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back. Here with America in the Morning at the National Map with a check of the nation's forecast. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
The weather map across the nation is limited in areas of rain and thunderstorms. One area AccuWeather hurricane experts are continuing to watch is a broad area of low pressure in the Gulf of Mexico, which will spread some rain and thunderstorms to the coastal areas of eastern Texas into Louisiana, especially this afternoon. There'll be just a few scattered showers inland, and then that will spread a little farther to the north at night into portions of Mississippi, Alabama, and perhaps the western portion of the Florida Panhandle. Through the central and southern portions of Florida, there'll be some showers and a drenching thunderstorm or two, with just a few scattered showers farther north into Georgia, North and South Carolina, and Virginia. We'll have a cold front moving through the plains into the Great Lakes, which will produce some late day or evening showers through portions of Iowa, Wisconsin, and Illinois. Another storm will eventually reach the northwest late tonight into tomorrow with some rain, but the balance of today will remain dry. And the rest of the nation is going to be dry, with most areas having plenty of sunshine. It will be generally warmer than the historical average ahead of the aforementioned cold front, with 90s throughout Texas and northward into southern Kansas. Some places will approach record levels, but the west and southwest is where records are likely to be broken. Phoenix, Arizona has had 9 straight days of record heat, including a hitting of 113 on Tuesday, which is the first October record where it reached more than 110. Today will be likely to add to the record books, and indeed, it could continue through the rest of the weekend into Monday. That's the weather across America. Wichita, Kansas will have a hot day with plenty of sunshine and a high near the record of 96. Biloxi, Mississippi will have mostly cloudy skies and a couple of showers around with a high of 85. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Remember, you can follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. Following Tuesday night's debate, Republican vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance and Democrat candidate Tim Walz were back on the campaign trail, revisiting their performances and criticizing their opponents. Here's our John Stolness.
Tuesday night's debate was largely perceived to be civil, with both men avoiding personal attacks and a policy-focused 90-minute exchange. However, speaking in Auburn Hills, Michigan yesterday, Vance changed his tone, relaying a conversation he had with former President Trump about Governor Walz's performance on Tuesday night.
And he said, "I'm telling you, man, go and watch the clips." He said he was friends with school shooters twice. And I said that was probably only the third or fourth dumbest comment Tim Walz made that night then.
Vance hitting Governor Walz over a verbal slip-up, talking about being friends with school shooting survivors. Walz, meanwhile, embarked on a bus tour of central Pennsylvania yesterday. At a rally in York, Walz criticized one particular moment from Vance at the debate.
The moment that really stuck out is I just asked the simplest of all questions that every single American should be able to answer. I asked him if Donald Trump lost the 2020 election. He refused to answer.
Surrogates fanned out on cable news. Republican Congressman Tom Emmer, who played Governor Walz during debate prep, tells CNN he can't understand why the media continues to harp on the 2020 election results.
He answered it. You don't like the answer, but he answered it. This is something that you folks in the media want to focus on a regular basis. The American people, and thank goodness J.D. Vance and Donald Trump, are focused on the election and how to fix this country.
However, in a post on Truth Social last night, former President Trump kept the fire burning, writing, quote, "I didn't rig the 2020 election, they did." On abortion, Vance indicated he preferred allowing states to decide on their own laws. Democratic Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi on CNN wasn't buying it.
This administration is for an abortion ban, a national abortion ban. And when they say leave it up to the states have their own abortion bans.
Most polls found a split decision on who won the debate, but a post-debate poll by CBS News YouGov found both men increased their likability. Walz up 8 points to 60% likability, and Vance up 9 points to 49%. I'm John Stolness.
When we return on America in the Morning, Michael Jordan files suit against racing giant after these messages. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments is a fiduciary, always putting clients' interests first. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens this morning after modest gains for the major averages yesterday, even though investors are still worried about Middle East tension. Crude oil still sitting around $70 a barrel. Investors are waiting for that big jobs report coming from the Labor Department tomorrow morning. Yesterday, we got data from payroll company ADP, which says private companies added more new jobs last month than expected, at 143,000.
Big picture, it's still a bull market. It looks like it and acts like it in every significant respect, but it really has slowed down. As this bull market gets ready to enter its third year, it's often a more kind of sober, plodding type of a tone. The fact that it can wait and see near the highs as we get this data on Friday is certainly not a negative.
CNBC's Mike Santoli. Levi Strauss shares were lower in after-hours trading last night on a possible sale of the Dockers brand. Michael Jordan's 2311 racing team suing NASCAR and its CEO Jim France for what it calls anti-competitive practices and monopolistic control of that sport. Jordan says NASCAR is unfair to teams, drivers, and sponsors. The port workers strike that has shut down 36 ports from Maine to Texas continues. 45,000 longshoremen walking picket lines. They say their key issue is automation that threatens their jobs.
The biggest part of the negotiations that is not spoken about very much is that they want to stop technology from coming in and replacing their jobs while they're asking for 77%. You can't have it both ways.
That's South Carolina Republican Senator Tim Scott on CNBC. At Boeing, meantime, 33,000 machinists are on strike again this morning. It's been 2.5 weeks. Boeing has cut off their health care benefits.
There's a swish and a switch going on at Nike.
New CEO, new plans for Nike, which withdrew its outlook for the full year. A new boss is coming in. Nike lost ground to sneaker makers like On Running and Hoka. And the CEO who left, John Donahoe, shifted Nike to selling everything online, ditching relationships with major sporting goods chains.
The amount of destruction that was done by one person, by Donahoe, is extraordinary. And we may have seen the peak for e-commerce when it comes to things over $100. The dismissal that they had for Foot Locker and for Dick's, so stupid, so arrogant. There wasn't anything that this company did right during this period. You spend more than $100 for a pair of sneakers.
You're going to try more.
Exactly.
That's CNBC Mad Money host Jim Cramer with CNBC's Carl Quintanilla. On today's watch list, we get earnings from Constellation Brands. We find out how many people applied for unemployment benefits last week.
Thank you, CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. When we return, doctor admits guilt in celebrity death. America in the Morning back after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Welcome back. In California, a doctor has pleaded guilty to charges related to actor Matthew Perry's death. Here's correspondent Margie Zaraletta with more on that story.
Dr. Mark Chavez pleaded guilty Wednesday to conspiring to distribute the drug ketamine, which a medical examiner ruled was the primary cause of Matthew Perry's death last October. Chavez is free on bond until his sentencing. He faces up to 10 years in prison. Chavez admitted in a plea agreement he obtained ketamine from his former clinic and from a wholesale distributor, where he submitted a fraudulent prescription. He has agreed to help prosecutors as they go after their main targets, the doctor and alleged dealer that prosecutors say sold the lethal dose to Perry. I'm Archie Zaraletta.
New York City ramps up security as Jewish people in the nation's largest city celebrate the start of the High Holy Days, which coincide with the anniversary of the October 7th Hamas attack on Israel. Here's correspondent Julie Walker.
NYPD Deputy Commissioner of Intelligence and Counterterrorism Rebecca Weiner says there are no credible threats at this point.
We remain on high alert. We remain responsive to the threat environment.
The NYPD says it's stepping up patrols using heavy weapons teams, canines, and other measures. Mayor Eric Adams says there's been an increase in hate across the board.
While we're going to ensure the safety of our Jewish constituents here in the city, we have an obligation to ensure the safety of all New Yorkers.
The NYPD says this year there have been almost 500 hate crimes, with 56% of them against the Jewish community, and over 300 arrests. Julie Walker, New York.
America in the Morning for Thursday, October 3rd, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay. Senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour, we'll have the latest on war in the Middle East. And
some workers at Impact Plastics in Irwin, Tennessee, say they weren't allowed to leave work during Hurricane Helene until it was too late. I'm Donna Warder.
Learning more about the killing of a judge in Kentucky. I'm Clayton Neville.
A report on the deadly Maui wildfire and it's day 3 of the longshoremen strike.
Jury deliberations begin today in the trial of Tyree Nichols in Memphis. I'm Pamela Burr.
OpenAI secures $6.6 billion in funding. I'm Chuck Palm.
The son of Oscar winner Daniel Day-Lewis has lured him out of acting retirement. I'm Kevin Carr.
We're back after these messages. Back now on America in the Morning with a check of the nation's weather. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
A good portion of the nation is going to be dry today, with most areas having plenty of sunshine. It will be generally warmer than the historical average ahead of a cold front moving through the northern plains and Great Lakes, with 90s throughout Texas and northward through southern Kansas. Some of those places will approach record levels. Generally, we're looking at temperatures 10 to 20 degrees above the historical average. But the west and southwest are where records are likely to be broken. Las Vegas, Nevada, for example, has had a record highs of 4 of the last 5 days, and today will be likely another day to add to the record books, and indeed that will likely continue into the weekend, into early next week, breaking or tying records into the day Monday. It'll be much more comfortable in the northwest into the northern plains, where temperatures will be closer to the historical average, with highs mostly in the 60s and 70s. The northeast will also be comfortable with sunshine and highs in the 60s and 70s. And while much of the nation is limited in areas of rain and thunderstorms, one area AccuWeather hurricane experts are continuing to watch is a broad area of low pressure in the Gulf of Mexico, and that will spread some rain and thunderstorms to the coastal areas of eastern Texas into Louisiana, especially during the afternoon hours, and just a few showers developing farther inland. But that rain will move a little bit farther north at night into portions of Mississippi, Alabama, and perhaps the western portions of the Florida Panhandle. Otherwise, we'll look at shower and thunderstorm activity through the central and southern portions of Florida. There could be some showers and a drenching thunderstorm or two, and just a few scattered showers farther north into Georgia, North and South Carolina, and Virginia. And then the cold front mentioned before in the plains and into the Great Lakes will produce some late day or evening showers through portions of Iowa, Wisconsin, and Illinois. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
I'm John Trout. You can follow us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. In the Middle East, Israel reported the first combat deaths of 8 soldiers they sent into Lebanon to fight against Hezbollah. Israeli jets struck a target in Damascus, Syria, killing the son-in-law of former Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah, who was killed last week in an airstrike in Beirut. As Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports, all this comes as concerns mount that a battle between Israel and the terrorist group will turn into a regional war. President Biden urges Israel to be careful in how it responds to Monday's Iranian missile barrage.
President Biden is urging Israel against a particular response after Iran fired about 180 missiles. Asked if he'd back an Israeli attack on Iranian nuclear sites.
The answer is no. I think there's things we'll be discussing with the Israelis what they're going to do, but all 7 of us agree that they have a right to respond, but they should respond in proportion.
Saying he and fellow G7 leaders who talked amid fears the region will devolve into all-out war would rather see Israel mount a more proportional response.
Obviously, Iran has gone way it's way off court. We're going to put together a joint statement. Hasn't been done yet. It'll be done before too long, probably by the time we land. And there's going to be some sanctions imposed on Iran.
Whatever it is, UN Ambassador Danny Danone says there will be one.
It was a calculated attack on a civilian population. Israel will not stand by in the face of such aggression. Israel will respond. Our response will be decisive. And yes, it will be painful.
Iranian Ambassador Amir Saeed Iravani says the missile strikes were in self-defense after months of Israeli aggression and gave his own warning.
Iran is fully prepared to take further defensive measures.
As the UN Security Council met in emergency session,
it's high time to stop the sickening cycle of escalation after escalation that is leading the people of the Middle East straight over the cliff. Each escalation has served as a pretext for the next.
Secretary General Antonio Guterres pleaded for all parties to stand down.
This deadly cycle of tit-for-tat violence must stop.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
The death toll continues to rise in the southeast following Hurricane Helene. In North Carolina, mules are being used to ferry in much-needed supplies in areas unreachable by vehicles. President Biden got a first-hand look at the devastation in the Tar Heel state. There are concerns in Tennessee where some workers at a plastics factory are blaming the company for the deaths of at least 2 employees and the disappearance of 4 others during last week's hurricane. Correspondent Donna Warder reports.
Some workers at Impact Plastics in Erwin, Tennessee, say they weren't allowed to leave work during Hurricane Helene until it was too late. The raging floodwaters swept away 11 people. 2 of them are confirmed dead and only 5 were rescued. The others are missing. Impact Plastics issued a statement Monday saying it monitored weather conditions Friday and allowed employees to leave when water began to cover the parking lot and a nearby service road, and the plant lost power. Some workers were able to drive away, but others got caught on a road with water high enough to sweep vehicles away. Employee Jacob Ingram told the Knoxville News-Sentinel that he survived high water by grabbing onto plastic pipes that were on his truck, and he and 4 others floated for about a half mile until they found safety on a sturdy pile of debris. They were rescued by helicopter. Ingram says the company should have evacuated everyone when they got the flash flood warnings. I'm Donna Warder.
In a story we've been following since it first broke, a hearing was held in Kentucky surrounding the murder of a district court judge in his chambers, allegedly shot and killed by that county's sheriff. Correspondent Clayton Neville has the latest.
Former Letcher County Sheriff Sean Mickey Steins was in court when footage of the shooting was shown.
Hey, will you identify the party we saw in that video?
That was Sheriff Mickey Steins and Judge Kevin Mullins.
And also, who had the firearm?
Sheriff Steins.
And then Judge was also in his black robe?
Yes.
Do you know what portion of the courthouse that is?
That is the judge's chambers.
And where's that located at, physically located?
in the Letcher County Courthouse.
Kentucky State Police Detective Clayton Stamper responded to the shooting and testified.
He was mostly calm, I thought. I mean, I talked to him, but he didn't say nothing about why this had happened.
Steins has been charged with murder in the shooting of District Judge Kevin Mullins last month inside his private chambers in the Letcher County Courthouse.
But he was calm.
Stamper said the video shows that Steins made calls after the shooting to his daughter. It's not clear, though, what he said.
Basically, all he said was, "Treat me fair." That's basically the comments he made.
The two men reportedly went to lunch with others the day of the shooting. Witnesses say the men talked about meeting privately, but they couldn't expand on what about. I'm Clayton Neville.
Day 3 of the dock workers' strike. And state of Arkansas sues tech company. Those stories and more are next. America in the Morning. Back after these messages. I'm John Trout. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning. A new report sheds light on what led to the deadly wildfires in Hawaii in 2023. The 300-page report released by the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, which worked with local officials, including the County of Maui Department of Fire and Public Safety, determined that broken power lines that came down during high winds ignited the fire after the wires sparked as they were laying in dry vegetation. The investigation found no definitive conclusion with how the ignition started, but noted that the report found the re-energized power line led to starting the fire, which was believed to be accidental. The August wildfire last year was the 5th deadliest in U.S. history and the worst natural disaster in Hawaii's history. Day 3, dock workers strike at 36 U.S. ports from Maine to Texas. So far, neither side is heading back to the bargaining table. Correspondent Julie Walker has the latest.
Ports from Maine to Texas closed for a dock workers' strike, with around 45,000 walking off the job Tuesday for the first time since 1977. Dock workers want a contract that doesn't allow automation to take their jobs and better pay. Supply chain experts say consumers won't see an immediate impact because most retailers have pre-stocked holiday goods. However, there are concerns that perishables like bananas and certain other items could be impacted if the strike lingers. President Biden could seek a court order for a cooling-off period to end the strike, at least temporarily, but he has told reporters he won't, instead urging both sides to negotiate.
They've made incredible profits, over 800% profit since the pandemic, and the owners are making tens of millions of dollars in this. The last thing they need is profit off of this. It's time for them to sit at the table and get this strike done.
I'm Julie Walker.
A Tennessee jury will begin deliberations later this morning in the trial of 3 Memphis police officers charged in the death of Tyree Nichols. Pamela Furr has the latest on proceedings.
Justice for Tyree!
Outside the courthouse, supporters of the Nichols family stood in a circle chanting "Justice for Tyree" after Tennessee Democrat State Representative Justin Pearson led them all in a prayer.
So that justice might roll down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream as we remember the life of Mr. Tyree Nichols, as we remember the life of this son, of this brother, of this cousin, of this friend, of this son of Memphis.
Nichols died January 10th, 2023, 3 days after he was beaten by police officers. It was supposed to be a traffic stop, but the officers used pepper spray and tased him. Nichols ran from those officers, but when they caught up with him, they severely beat him. During closing arguments on Wednesday, a prosecutor told jurors the officers wanted to punish Nichols after he ran and thought they could get away with it. All 5 officers were fired. 3 are facing life in prison. Nichols' mother, outside the courtroom, told reporters,
"Our hope is that they're found guilty and to show the world that my son was a good person and he wasn't the criminal that they're trying to make him out to be."
I'm Pamela Furr.
The state of Arkansas is suing a popular social media platform. Correspondent Lisa Dwyer reports.
Arkansas has sued YouTube and its parent company Alphabet, saying the video sharing platform is deliberately addictive and fueling a mental health crisis among youth. The lawsuit accuses the companies of violating the state's deceptive trade practices and public nuisance laws. The suit claims the site has resulted in millions of dollars being spent on mental health services. Google, which owns the video service, denied the lawsuit's claims, calling its controls robust. YouTube requires users under 17 to get their parents' permission before using the site, while accounts for users younger than 13 must be linked to a parental account. But it is possible to watch YouTube without an account, and kids can easily lie about their age. The lawsuit is the latest move to highlight the impact of social media on youth mental health. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
OpenAI, the parent company to ChatGPT, secures a massive round of private funding to the tune of $6.6 billion. Here's Chuck Palm with today's tech news.
OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, the most successful and most widely used AI chatbot, has just secured $6.6 billion in funding from Microsoft and NVIDIA, making it one of the most successful private corporations in the world. The funding happens to coincide with the company's ongoing restructuring efforts and executive changes, including the abrupt departure of their chief technology officer, Mira Murati, just last week. OpenAI CFO Sarah Fryer told employees that the company will be able to buy back their shares following the funding, although no details or timing have been declared. Apple, who is also in talks to invest in OpenAI, did not end up joining the fundings, based on anonymous sources from inside the company. The funding is contingent on convertible notes, meaning that the equity hinges on a successful structural change to a for-profit company. The company is on pace to generate $3.6 billion this year in revenue over mounting losses of $5 billion. I'm Chuck Palm.
America in the Morning's Robert Workman has a check of sports.
Baseball's Wild Card Wednesday saw 3 of the 4 series end with 2-game sweeps. The Tigers topped the Astros 5-2, ending Houston's 7-year run of appearances in the American League Championship Series. Detroit went with a bullpen game and held a 1-0 lead until the 7th, when the Astros loaded the bases with nobody out, scoring 2 runs on a fielder's choice and a sac fly. But the Tigers came right back in the 8th, tying the game on a wild pitch before pinch hitter Andy Ibanez cleared the bases with a double. The Tigers head to Cleveland for the Division Series opener on Saturday. The Royals edged the Orioles 2-1 to advance, Bobby Witt Jr. singling in the winning run for the second straight day.
I think it's the start of something special. Like I keep saying, we didn't come this far just to come this far, and so we're just going to keep getting after it and keep trying to create our own legacy.
Kansas City will match up with the top-seeded Yankees in the other ALDS. National League, the Padres hung a 5 spot in the second inning and held on for a 5-4 win over the Braves. After Atlanta got a run in the first, Kyle Higashioka's 2-out solo homer started the second inning rally. Manny Machado smacked a 2-run double, and rookie Jackson Merrill followed with a 2-run triple. Jorge Soler went deep to lead off the Atlanta 5th, and Michael Harris II made it a 1-run game with a 2-run shot to center in the 8th, but that was as close as they got. San Diego starter Joe Musgrove left in the 4th inning with elbow tightness. He'll have an MRI today. The Padres head up the coast to L.A., where they will open their division series against the Dodgers. In Milwaukee, the Brewers overpowered the Mets 5-3 to force a decisive Game 3 tonight. Jackson Churio's second dinger of the game tied it to lead off the 8th. Garrett Mitchell's 2-run tater later in the inning was the difference.
I'm not trying to hit a homer there. It's a nice result, obviously, but my thought is pass it to the next guy.
Tonight's winner will play the Phillies starting on Saturday. NFL Week 5 kicks off tonight in Atlanta with the Falcons against the Buccaneers. The rumored blockbuster NBA trade between the Knicks and the Timberwolves was officially announced Wednesday. All-star big man Karl Anthony Towns heads to the Big Apple, with Minnesota getting forward Julius Randle, guard Dante DiVincenzo, and a future first-round pick. NBA preseason games begin tomorrow. That's Thursday Sports.
Thank you, sir. When we return on America in the Morning, telescope findings astronomical. That and more ahead. We're back after these messages. This is America in the Morning. He retired, and now he's unretired twice. Kevin Carr has the latest on Oscar-winning actor Daniel Day-Lewis.
3-time Oscar winner Daniel Day-Lewis is coming out of retirement again. After a 7-year absence, the 67-year-old Englishman is returning to the screen for the film Anemone, which he co-wrote with his son, Ronan Day-Lewis, who will also direct. Considered the greatest actor of his generation, Day-Lewis won his first Oscar for 1989's My Left Foot.
I love you, Eileen.
And I love you, Christy.
No, I really love you.
Day-Lewis famously retired before in the late 90s, practicing woodworking and moving to Italy to become an apprentice to a famous shoemaker. He came back to acting for Martin Scorsese's Gangs of New York in 2002, and he won his second Oscar for 1997's There Will Be Blood.
I drink your water. I drink it up. Every day, I drink the blood of lamb from Bandish Tract.
His third best Oscar was for Steven Spielberg's Lincoln.
We are stepped out upon the world stage now, with the fate of human dignity in our hands.
Day-Lewis retired again in 2017 after receiving an Oscar nomination for Best Actor for Phantom Thread. Very little is known about Anemone aside from the supporting cast of Sean Bean, Samantha Morton, Samuel Bottomley, and Sophia Oakley-Green. The film explores intergenerational family bonds between fathers, sons, and brothers. I'm Kevin Carr.
Amazing what you can see with a telescope. Correspondent Jennifer King reports that scientists using one of the world's most sophisticated devices made new discoveries about the frozen surface of Pluto's largest moon.
NASA's James Webb Space Telescope has identified traces of carbon dioxide and hydrogen peroxide on the surface of Pluto's largest moon. Previous observations of Charon found water ice, ammonia, and organic chemicals. The Webb telescope was able to fill in some of the gaps.
We used the near-infrared spectrograph.
Study co-author Sylvia Protopapa.
This extended coverage enabled the detection for the first time of carbon dioxide and hydrogen peroxide on the surface.
Scientists think carbon dioxide might be stirred up by the impacts from asteroids. The new discoveries will help us understand more about radiation and surface chemistry at the far fringes of the solar system.
There's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of fingerprints of chemicals that we otherwise wouldn't get to see.
Oxford Associate Professor Carly Howitt is a NASA investigator.
It's a nice extra piece of the jigsaw puzzle in understanding what's going on in the Pluto system.
The research was published this week in the journal Nature Communications. I'm Jennifer King.
America in the Morning for Thursday, October 3rd, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay, senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.